My name is Peter Holland, Knowledge Transfer Manager at Innovate UK Business Connect. We're here helping arrange the event today for the ZEVI2 briefing alongside our colleagues at Dept and Innovate UK. I don't think there's going to be any fire drills or anything today, so I think we should be fine. If so, I think we'll have staff come in and help escort us out. I don't know where the meeting points are. Follow them. I think is probably the best advice at the moment. So just to go through what we're going to be doing today, obviously I'll do a bit of a welcome now. I'll be handing over to Alexandra from Dept to go through the UK Shore programme. Then Ian obviously talk a few more details about UK Shore. We'll have an update from Jonty about the MCA's new Innovation Centre, a break, and then over to James and Dawn to talk about the details of the competition. After that, it is just going to be networking, so please take the opportunity to chat to each other and find some competition partners if you need any, if there's any knowledge or skills gaps. Do some great chatting. This room will be open, next door will be open. By all means, use all of the space and use it to your advantage. So first of all, I would just like to thank Alex and her team at UK Shore for securing more money for the innovation in Maritime. We've seen how popular it's been over the last few years, so a big thank you to her for all the sterling work they've been doing to make sure we've secured it for the next 4 years as well. And also a big thank you to Innovate UK, James and team, for making sure that all goes smoothly and running the competition. It's a big headache at times, as I'm sure you can all imagine, so it's great to see them doing such great work. So at that point, I will hand over to Alex, and we can open the event.
Hello and welcome to the Zero-Emission Vessels and Infrastructure, or ZEVI2, launch day. And that will be the last time I say the long acronym, hopefully, because as I'm sure you'll have been aware with the UK Shore programme so far, we really like a long acronym, so I will start by apologising for that. But I wanted to say welcome, and also welcome to what is a wonderful venue for today, and thank you so much for making the time to come out here during what I know is a really busy time of year and also busy roadshow where we've really crammed a lot of different events in. And I saw some of you in Bristol yesterday who've then braved coming to London today, so thank you for that. And I just wanted to also make a quick thank you to everybody who's put the event together today, from Innovate UK and to all our lovely speakers who've made this possible as well. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Alexandra Beaumont. I am the Programme Director for the UK Shore programme in the Department for Transport, and we are a part of the Maritime Environment team within the department, and so that team spans a wide range of different topics, from international negotiations at the IMO through to regulation, through to domestic policy as published in the Maritime Decarbonisation Strategy that came out last year, and the bit that you're all interested about today, the UK Shore Research and Development Programme. So this programme, it's seen incredible success, and what I want to say about that as well, which I always say, and you've probably heard me say it before if you've seen me speak, is that we couldn't have done this without the wonderful support that we've had from industry stakeholders. And part of that is the evidence that goes behind this programme, which I'll briefly touch on again in a moment. But I just wanted to say that this is something that I think none of us envisioned would be here today talking about some funding as part of the 448 million that we have. Because when we started this in 2021, which I just wanted to briefly reflect on, we had just over £20 million as a sort of seed little start pot to get this going. And when we had that, I don't think anyone envisioned that that would go into a £206 million pot of funding, which we've already delivered on, and then move that into the 448 million pounds that we're talking about today. So none of this would have been possible without the collaboration of the people in this room. And so part of this, as well as looking forward and looking at the exciting innovation that we're going to move forward into, I also wanted to talk about how we've got to this point. And a lot of that has been through quite a unique collaboration style, I think, between industry and academics and Innovate UK in order to make this come together as something that has worked so well. And so I have to thank a lot of people in this room about how we got to this point. The team in Department for Transport, Ian and Ben, who are in the room, and the other people who are handling the fort while we're away, have been quite new to this team and has taken on quite a large portfolio and made this 448 possible as well in terms of how we're going to deliver it. So to them, both current and past members of the team, sort of huge parts of this success as well, and also to our colleagues in Innovate UK, with whom we couldn't have done this because this is such a seismic amount of money, and without them we wouldn't have been able to make this nearly as a success. But there are lots of other people on the path as well. The Marine and Coastguard Agency, who have valiantly upskilled their, upstaffed their team in order to be the sort of regulation support group that I know a lot of the industry people bidding in will need. And so they've really listened to feedback and developed through the original UK Shore out into this point where they're now an incredibly large team for that, which Jonty will talk to you about later. So, of course, what I'm talking about today is the sort of way that we've all come together to do this. I heard someone say recently, if you want to be in a village, you have to be a villager, and I think that feels to me very much like what UK Shore is like. We are all part of that village. Anyway, that was a very cheesy thought I had on the train in, and I thought, oh, I'd just say that, because, and then I was like, I'm very gushy about UK Shore, and there you go. So, gushiness aside, onto the practicality. The Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition is obviously one of our big bits of success that we've already had a load of events about, and so please do keep in touch with what's going on with that. But today we're here to talk about ZEVI2, and what I want to say is that this is a really exciting opportunity to build your consortiums, hear about the detail of what's going on in this competition, what you can look to do projects with, and what technology and fuels and ideas you could be looking to do. And today really is about building consortiums as well. So I want to just say, like, use this time to talk to each other, to get ideas. Come talk to us, come talk to the MCA, come talk to Innovate UK and get some thoughts about your projects, your ideas. And we're really interested to see where this goes. My colleague Ian is going to talk to you about how ZEVI2 fits into the wider programme, so please do have a look at that as well, because I think it's also really valuable to see that this is not just individual pots of funding, this is a long-term acceleration of what is going to be the future of maritime decarbonisation. So, with that, this is something that, as you can probably tell, I'm very personally excited about. I'm very excited to see what you develop as part of ZEVI2, and you don't want to hear about everything that I'm going to drone on about, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here today. I'm really looking forward to the wonderful innovation that comes out of this, and this is a programme that means a lot to the department, so thank you for being part of that. I hope you have an excellent event, and I'll be around all day if you want to ask me any questions. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay? The mic working? Brilliant. If I do step away from the mic, someone shout, because I have a tendency to walk, so I apologise in advance. Thank you for coming, and thank you very much, Alex and Peter, and everyone that's made today happen. And thank you, everyone, for coming as well. What is UK Shore? So, first of all, the UK Shipping Office for Reducing Emissions. So it says on the tin exactly what our reason for being is, and that's to help provide support and direction for the UK's route to decarbonising the maritime industry. We, as Alex mentioned, first competition was in 2021, and from there we have developed to deliver multiple competitions, multiple rounds, and we're adding to that each year. And one of the main things is we are DFT's programme for delivering research and development, and trying to cement the UK's leadership of clean maritime industry. There's some fantastic research done by the Clean Maritime Research Hub, which shows that the UK already leads globally in the amount of research done and the citations of clean maritime research. We have some fantastic projects, some fantastic companies, technologies that have already been developed, and we want to keep that momentum and keep it growing. What we're trying to solve, I think people in the room will know this at least just as well as myself, if not more. Maritime at the moment, this is a slightly dated statistic, there will be some updated ones, but 5.5% of the UK's domestic domestic transport emissions. That is only set to grow. Unlike other industries, say road, maritime is a hard to abate sector. So there's long lead-in times, there is large amounts of upfront capital, and that means that, you know, with the average life of a vessel being 25 years, with the array of different vessel types that we have and the different technologies that are going to be needed, it means that we are making decisions today that will lock us into emission scenarios for the next 20, 25 years. So there's a real need to hit the iron whilst it's hot and keep this momentum growing to make sure that we are setting a trajectory that gets us to where we need to be for decarbonisation. UK Shore isn't in a vacuum. As Alex mentioned, there is a wider maritime environment team in DFT, and then all of the departments and collaborators we work with. There is the Maritime Decarbonisation Strategy, which was published by the Department for Transport back in April last year, which sets out a vision for the roadmap for decarbonisation, and that includes things like regulation and international collaboration. UK Shore is a key enabler for the Maritime Decarbonisation Strategy, and it's the research and development to help ensure that actually when regulation comes into be, the technology is already there. So when the incentives come in, there is technology to be adopted, and there is a market for that technology to grow into. I won't go into the detail on this slide, but just to highlight some of the key milestones that we do have. So there is the Maritime Decarbonisation Strategy published last year. We'll be reviewing that in 2027. We have the interim target 30% by 2030, 80% reduction by 2040, and net zero by 2050. I do encourage everyone to at least have a glance at the Maritime Decarbonisation Strategy. And it wasn't me that wrote it, so I can say it is a really excellent document, and it goes through into some of the different decarbonisation scenarios we're looking at, some of the fuel scenarios, some of the key bits of regulation or government intervention that have been considered. So UK Shore to date, first launched in 2021, we've allocated over £260 million to date across 200 projects, all 12 regions and nations of the United Kingdom. Over 120 million in private investment leveraged alongside that, so in addition. I've supported over 500 organisations, 250 SMEs, so we're looking over 50% of those involved in consortia have been SMEs. And completed projects have supported over 750 jobs so far. This map, it's a little glance, a little sliver of where these projects are based and what's been achieved, because this is actually only CMDC rounds 1 to 4. As we said, there's been 12 competitions to date, so in 4 of those competitions, that's the sort of geographic spread that we're looking at, and we're hoping to really drive an increase in that too. The competition design, we've already had 5 years to have some learnings and pull some learnings from what has worked and what hasn't. So I wanted to highlight today some of the things that we've heard the feedback on. We spoke to at events. We've had an evaluation. The interim evaluation was published last year. One of the main things is time. You know, these are difficult technological problems. They take time to solve. So the first is the application time. We've committed to lengthening that application time. And you'll see from CMDC 7 and ZEVI2, there's longer application times, longer to try and build effective consortia, and longer to work through in detail your proposed project plans. Project duration, the same. You know, particularly in ZEVI, where we're talking about commercial demonstrations, ambitious projects, it takes a long length of time to deliver. So we've given you the longest delivery time of any of our competitions. Difficulty of navigating regulations and standards. This is something we hear a lot. It's an innovative sector, and therefore regulation needs to innovate with it. So the Maritime and Coastguard agencies, Innovation Hub, which launches tomorrow, is being set up to help support with your journey with this, and also to help you in the planning phase for your projects. So you can be considering regulation as you're pulling together your consortia and you're pulling together your designs. And then review of reporting standards. So the one key thing of UK Shore is that not only do we want to support your learnings, we want to make sure that the industry itself is moving forward and that we're learning from your experiences. So there are some mandatory reporting requirements that go alongside our competitions. We've made that clearer in the initial brief, and we're going to go, our UK is going to go into that in a little bit more detail later on. What comes next? It's been a really exciting 4 or 5 years, and being new to this in the last year, joining the team and seeing what has been achieved was both staggering and daunting to walk into. But then actually as a team over the last 8 months, getting this 448 million over the line, it means we've got an even more exciting next 5 years. Double the amount of money and a lot of ambition to keep driving forward the clean maritime industry. So with the 121 million Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition round launched in March, ZEVI2 also launched in March. Briefing events for CMDs have been held. We have today. They are both being recorded and will be on the UK website. So if you want to watch back or share, please do send the link to people. And regional roadshows. So we're already partway through our UK roadshow. So we will be having events for all 12 regions and countries of the UK. If you take one thing from my talk today, and hopefully you take at least one thing, it's that ZEVI does not exist in a vacuum. Over that 5 years, we've been cultivating a pipeline of innovation support. So along the top, you'll see the technology readiness level, and this is a flavour of the key interventions currently available with UK Shore. So we have the Clean Maritime Research Hub, starting with academic research and early level research and idea development. The Transport Research Innovation Grants that we had last year, and there will be future rounds coming, looking at a similar space, feasibility studies, early demonstration, early idea development. CMDC and then ZEVI, we're not looking to stop there. We're actively considering where are the opportunities for further support, where are the barriers that still exist, and actually, how does UK Shore link into the wider landscape? As founders, as innovators, it is very difficult for you to keep track of the finance landscape, of the opportunities that are there to hit them in a timely manner. We're committed to trying to make that as simple as possible for you and articulate the insight that we've got and we've derived to help shape the programme. We want to make sure that that's also available to you, so you know where to look for funding, where to look for consortia, where to look for support. Key dates, people will know this, but CMDC 7 closes the 15th of July and ZEVI2 closes the 16th of September. We also, the Dept for Transport's Aviation, Maritime and Security Minister announced in September 2025. We will be having 2 more rounds of CMDC also. They will be between now and 2030. So we're trying to make sure that there is not only the TRL spread of support, but also temporally that there is iterations of support so that people can keep developing ideas. Please do follow the links to the excellent UK Shore website. Also, I would plug the Clean Maritime Research Hub website and also the Transport Research Innovation Grants page on .gov. Thank you, everyone. I really look forward to seeing your applications, and if any questions, please come find me afterwards.
Welcome all. Regulation is supposedly the bane of the maritime industry in the UK. The feedback that we've had continuously is that the MCA hasn't been the best partner to the maritime industry in terms of how to support that. We're setting up a new UK Maritime Innovation Hub within the MCA to be able to try to correct certain of these things. My name is Jonty Slater. I have been employed by the MCA to set up this new innovation hub. I was brought in December, so please give me a chance to get my team in. Everybody knows who we are. With the maritime regulator, we're supposed to be here to look after both vessel, seafarer, environment, and the safety across all of those areas. We're not trying to change that. With the innovation hub, we're looking at it from a very particular focus. We're not changing how the MCA works with all of you, but we're trying to give you a new way to talk to us. It's focused on 4 key areas: mass, autonomy, decarbonisation, digital systems, because we actually understand that that is something that a lot of you are working on in terms of how that fits, and then nuclear propulsion. We feel that these are key areas where innovation needs to be supported in a different way, because the regulations may not be well understood, may be ambiguous, or where we actually need to be thinking about new regulations and how we think about these. So the MCA made the commitment that this was part of the maritime decarbonisation strategy to set the MCA up. And the MCA has made a big commitment. So 21 people, 21 headcount is part of my team. Is being set up. There's 11 of us, we'll be 15 by the end of next month, we'll be 21 by the end of the year. This shows the level of commitment that the MCA is trying to bring, so that you guys can talk to us and have a different kind of conversation with us than you would have had previously. This means we have dedicated surveyors, we have dedicated customer engagement team, we have dedicated technical advisors, and we have technical naval architects, etc., within the team. This is all here to support you. This is non-statutory, so previously, if you've been speaking to the MCA, you then needed to start paying for access to MCA surveyors. We're sitting before that. We're pre-engagement. We talk to you before you need to start doing any of it from a commercial point of view. We help untangle all of the regulations for you so that you know what you need to submit. We're still the regulator. We can't change any of that. My colleagues, remember, MCA is nearly 1,300 people. This is a large organization. It's been around for a long time. We're not changing any of that. We're just giving you a new way to talk to us. This team is dedicated. It's all customer focused. Nothing is changing beyond that. So we want to hear from everybody in this room. If you have a project that you are working on that you haven't thought about from a regulatory point of view, or you have thought and you just want to verify, you can there's going to be an email address at the end of my presentation. It's really easy, innovation@mcga.gov.uk. Really easy. That starts the conversation with us. You'll then get a call with somebody, one of the team will have a call with you within 10 working days. You will have it within 10 working days. You'll have a call set up. Somebody will talk to you about the regulations, make it all set up. It just allows us to understand what you're thinking about. If you're doing anything different, if you're thinking about something unique, We can also help clarify where we think this should fit in and how much time you need to be thinking about in terms of when you need to come to the statutory side of the MCA. This is all something that we can clarify so that when you put your bids together, you have it all clear. When you get through to the next stage, though, we then become much more of a partner with you in terms of being able to make sure that you get all of your documents correct and lined up, so that when you do formally submit your vessel or the retrofit or whatever you're doing to do, we can also help with if you need to bring a vessel over onto UK flag, because one of the requirements for UK Shore is to support the UK flag as well. If you need to do that, we can talk tonnage tax with you, we can talk everything. So all of that kind of conversation can be had within the Innovation Hub. This is something that we can bring all of those conversations together so that you're not trying to work out who to talk to and how to make the value add. So we bring this whole conversation to you and we work it out and we work out how best for you to work within the MCA. We'll just keep it going. Once you're approved, it all keeps going. We're just partners along the way. We work with you. You'll have a single point of engagement to be able to engage with all of it, to be able to support your journey through the MCA. We're saying just engage with us at much earlier stages than you would before. This is a really different way for us to engage with the MCA. MCA hadn't been thinking about this before, but the commitment has been, through me and my team, to actually make sure that you have a different experience working at the MCA, that you actually understand what you needed to do from a regulatory point of view, but also that you actually have a success that happens throughout this whole process. So start the journey, send an email in. Myself and Jonathan Simpson are here today, but there's a whole wider team. The reason more of my team are not here is because we have our big showcase launch tomorrow at the UK Flag Forum, happening at the QE2. But we really wanted to make sure that we are here to support UK Shore. UK Shore is the growth, it's the future development of maritime in the UK in terms of the work, and ZEVI2 really allows us to see what is actually happening at scale in terms of taking stuff to commercial deployment. We really want to see that, and that's where the MCA can really support you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jonty. It's not actually on to James yet. We're going to have a break now, so don't worry too much. But yeah, I think the commitment from our speakers so far shows how good that relationship is between government and industry. It's great to see the advice and feedback we've had from industry feedback into this programme, which is amazing to see. So at this point, I think we'll hand over to a break. If we need to be back by 11, please, that would be great work. Again, there's coffee and hopefully some snacks next door, which I will be avoiding. As I've said to some people this morning, I put on my smart trousers. They ripped and the button flew off, so I'll be trying to avoid the buffet today. But yes, please be back for 11 o'clock and we'll kick off with the details of the event, of the fund, sorry. Thanks very much. and we'll get all the speakers up so you can ask questions after that. And then we'll be going into lunch. So it won't be too long, hopefully, and then it'll just be networking for the rest of the day. So yes, without further ado, I'll hand over to James, and you can hear more about the scope itself.
Thank you, Peter. It's very optimistic saying that this presentation is going to answer all your questions. I really hope it does, but it never does. I'm here today so you can ask questions about this competition. What I'm going to be talking about is fairly complex. I get into a lot of detail about the competition brief and scope. And anyone who's been to one of these before will know that it really does get into a lot of detail. I don't expect you just to understand everything at first pass that I'm going to be speaking about. So I am here today all the way until 5 o'clock for you to come and ask me questions, no matter how difficult. Please make them really difficult. I love them. I'm James. I'm Innovation Lead for Maritime at Innovate UK, so I oversee the technical delivery of the programs that come through us from UK Shore mostly. So all the CMDCs and ZEVI, the Smart Shipping Acceleration Fund, those kind of competitions have usually had me involved in some way. If you come to a briefing before, particularly if you came to the CMDC 7 briefing, you would have heard me speaking about the competitions. If you're not familiar with who Innovate UK are, we've been mentioned a few times today. We've seen the purple branding. I don't know, the lights are on point. I don't know who organised that, but that is the Innovate UK purple. We are part of UKRI, which is UK Research and Innovation, which is a non-departmental government body. Sponsored by the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. So we sit within government. We help support R&D as a whole for the UK as UKRI. Innovate UK, the purple one of the councils that sit under UKRI, we are focused on the business-led research support. So a lot of you in the room today are representative of businesses. We have a few academics as well. We are really focused on bringing that together into research aims that actually result in something in the real world. Hence why we're here talking about ZEVI2, which is resulting in vessels in the real world. Quick thank yous from me as well. I know thank yous get done a lot, but please thank you for the organisers of this event. We have Olivia, who's on the door. Those guys never quite get a mention, but they really are the brains behind this whole event. Have organised this massive, lovely venue. Got you guys interested with all the comms that have been going out online and got you into the venue to hear about ZEVI2. They do a fantastic effort doing that, so big thank you to those guys and Peter as well at Innovate UK Business Connect. The biggest thank you, of course, to Dept for somehow securing almost £500 million worth of funding for the maritime sector as we go for the next few years. I say somehow, just quite flippantly. It's not a somehow. There's a lot of hard work that goes into that, particularly from industry, as Alex mentioned earlier. Thank you to my Innovate UK colleagues who helped me deliver this competition, particularly Dawn, who's going to be coming up next, Nicola, who's over sitting next to Dawn as well, and Michael and Robert, who are in the room, and Martine, who's also in the room. So there's a few of us from Innovate UK you can come talk to. Right, I am going to jump in. I'll try and ease you in slowly into the competition and then get into a lot of detail. I'll try and make it dynamic, but be aware that there is a lot of text on these slides because I have to copy and paste it from the competition brief. I can't say anything else otherwise. My plan is not to just read through walls of text, but to talk around what it all means. Try and keep attention. I appreciate probably after about 10 minutes you may be losing it a little bit. That's fine, understood. I need to do it for compliance reasons. Come and speak to me afterwards if you need more detail on the competition. Dawn's going to be running through actually how you apply to the competition, which is very important if you've never done Innovate UK competitions before. If you need to pay attention to anything, pay attention to that because there's a lot of nuances in there. And then me and Dawn are going to answer a few questions on stage afterwards for anyone who's still not quite clear about what we've been talking about. Right, ZEVI2, Zero-Emission Vessels and Infrastructure 2. We at Innovate UK are working with the Department for Transport to invest in this competition. So that's £150 million worth of grant funding is available under ZEVI2. That £150 million is from the Department for Transport. They're the ones that secured the next wave of funding for UK Shore. The money is from them. We at Innovate UK are the delivery partner. So you'll see us a lot at Innovate UK, the purple branding everywhere. But just know we're working in partnership with the Dept and a lot of the policy decisions, well, the policy decisions that underlie this particular fund, as well as the funding, comes from them. ZEVI2 is part of a wider UK Shore programme that you would have heard from Alex and Ian earlier. It's one competition amongst many. You would have seen the graph that Ian put on the screen of the sort of different TRL levels we're aiming for. ZEVI2 is very much at the higher end of those, and I'll see what that means in a minute. UK Shore has very grand aims, which we're seeing realised already about leading, the UK being a leader in maritime research and technology. Right, so the aim of this competition, the broadest aim of this competition is to fund UK business-led development and build of innovative clean maritime technologies that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There's a few key words in that first sentence. The first is development and build, the first two words, and the second is greenhouse gas emissions, second three words. That is the key part of ZEVI2. That's what separates it from, the first bit definitely is what separates it from CMDC 7. And there's activity in ZEVI2 projects that we're expecting, which is a cut above what we're expecting in CMDC 7. Successful projects will be required to demonstrate their technology for 3 years without funding support. And again, that last bit is the USP of ZEVI. We have a huge demonstration requirement in this competition that is commensurate of the amount of money that's going into the projects. So we're looking for big projects that build in clean maritime technology, and they're going to be demonstrating it for 3 years. We have 3 strands in the competition. So any of you that are familiar with maritime competitions in the past, kind of aware of this mechanism. If you're not aware of it, that's fine. Basically, what we're trying to do with the stranding in a competition is ensure that we get a diverse portfolio of projects across the areas of technology that we're expecting and the priority areas for DFT, priority policy areas. In this one, in ZEVI2, we have 3 strands focused on the first one, alternative fuels, the second one, electric power, and the third strand is energy efficiency. Before I explain what those mean, I need to tell you that if you bid your application into the wrong strand, it's pitched at the wrong strand, you will be made ineligible before it even gets sent to assessment. And the reason I have that in bold on the screen, and the reason I'm sort of pausing as I speak around it, is because it's really, really important that you get this right. I'm not tricking you when we put these strands. I'm not trying to catch you out. That's not what I'm in the business of doing. I want you to succeed. But we do have a few rules that we have around these competitions that you do need to adhere to, and this is probably one of the most important ones. As I go through the scope of each of these strands today, if you're unsure where you're pitching your idea, it's vital that you get in contact with us to sort it out. Even if you're 99% sure you've got the right strand, contact us to clear it up and make sure you're going into the right one. Because I say if you don't, you've put hundreds of hours into an application, you've got all your signatories on the final letter that says, yes, we're all applying for this fund. And unfortunately, you will just not actually get past assessment because you went into the wrong bit. So email us is the best way to do this. support@iuk.ukri.org to get your application ideas into me, for me to give you a view on where it's going into. So I'll have the final say on that. Some key dates before we jump into scope. Dawn will go over these a bit in a minute. We have, for all 3 strands, the same sort of structure. So the key dates and key project costs. So let's go project costs first. All project costs for this competition must be between £6 and £60 million. And that's project costs, not project grant. So your project entirety must be between those 2 boundaries, between numbers 6 and 60 million. The duration of the projects is a bit tricky, but should make sense once I explain it. You have a funded period of 2 years and 9 months for you to do your entire development and build of whatever you're doing in your project. So just under 3 years, 2 years and 9 months to do that. And that's all going to be funded if you're requesting funding for it. You're then following that period with a 3-year unfunded demonstration that I mentioned in the aims of this competition. So that is a build period and then an unfunded by us demonstration period. So you've got to fund the operation of your demonstration by yourselves. This means that the project duration in its entirety, if you stretch it out, is 5 years and 9 months, so just under 6 years. We should give you an idea of the scale of what we're going for with these projects. These are long-term, big build projects that have lasted for a long time. So the funded project end by date is 31st of December 2029. The demonstration end is 31st December 2032. A quick note about another USP of this competition is that we are funding capital costs. Again, Dawn will go over what these mean in a minute, but these are costs that are for the purchase of capital equipment and other capitalized eligible costs for the large-scale demonstration projects. The investments in the capital costs must be relevant to the project, of course, and the maximum intervention rate for these purchases is up to 80% for any size business for the duration of the project. And those costs are funded up until the 31st of December, as I just said, 2029. I'm highlighting this because this is different from, if anyone's interested in CMC7, the costs that we fund under that competition. We have our usual R&D costs in CMC7. We have them in this competition as well. But in this ZEVI competition, we have extra cost categories that are focused on capital. So we're expecting the projects in this to be capital investment, and we're expecting them to be big capital investment projects. And the other difference is the 80% grant intervention rate for all businesses. I should mention two things. That 80% is for all businesses, so it doesn't matter on the size of business, which is usual with our intervention rates. The second thing is I should have underlined this, but it's up to 80%. So that means you can request lower. If you go up to 80%, you really need to justify why you're doing so in your application. There are questions on that. Right, I'm going to talk about the scope of the competitions, what we mean by those different strands that I mentioned earlier. Strand 1 is the alternative fuels strand, which has a fairly specific definition within our competition brief. So have a look at that. By the way, everything put on the slides here is online on the IFS website. Don't feel like you've got to note it all down, take pictures. It is all there in black and white. And what I'm putting on the slides today is not exhaustive as well. So there are extra bits on the IFS that I haven't put on the slides today. So strand 1, alternative fuels. The alternative fuel strand is funding the development and build of innovative alternative fuel vessels and accompanying port refueling infrastructure. So alternative fuel vessels and port refueling infrastructure coming together in a single project. Your project in strand 1 must be focusing on an alternative fuel or hybrid electric and alternative fuel, new build or retrofit vessels, and the accompanying refueling infrastructure. And this can include onboard fuel cell and combustion technology. We do have a note about alternative fuel projects that any fossil fuel usage within an alternative fuel project must be intended to be a pilot fuel only. So this is really looking at full use of alternative fuels in a technology project. Strand 2 is called electric power. And this one is funding the development and build of two main things. The first is innovative 100% battery electric vessels and accompanying charging infrastructure. And the second is novel, innovative, and commercially viable shore power systems, including related energy infrastructure at ports and any accompanying vessel upgrades. I said I wouldn't read from the slides, but these are such important things I do need to get this word for word. You'll see this is slightly different from ZEVI1, where we had electric vessels and shore power projects in two different strands. The difference in ZEVI2 is that they are now both in one strand. And those of you who are looking at a shore power project, that is a technology project for providing power to vessels while moored and allows them to turn off their conventional power supply, you must be focusing on the novel and innovative side of things of the shore power infrastructure. So we have a lot of lines around what we mean by novel, innovative, commercially viable in the scope. Do have a look at those. It's vitally important that shore power projects pay attention to that, please. They're here. So the shore power projects must consider the energy source, the cost, sustainability, resilience, capacity, connection requirements, and timeline of shore power, the users, the pricing, the likely utilization during the demonstration period, how you're satisfied that there is current or likely future demand for shore power in your locations, how to maintain operation and grow utilization beyond the demonstration period, and how to ensure all shore power infrastructure has significant use by the vessels you're intending it for. You will be asked about those bullets in the questions that are in the application form. We're trying to draw out really key points here with these shore power technologies, as we are with all our technologies, but it's vitally important you consider these points for shore power technology, so please pay attention to that. What I'd encourage you to do, rather than just trying to go it alone, is if you're interested in shore power technology, come and reach out to me, please, at support@iuk.ukri.org before the competition closes, to check whether your application is going to be in scope and meets these points. And you need to do that at least 20 working days before the competition closes, please. Which, for reference, is 16th of September, 16th of September 2026. Right, and then the final strand of the three we have in this is one focused on energy efficiency technology. So this is another focus area that we consider for Clean Maritime. And this is a new strand for ZEVI2. It wasn't really a standalone strand in ZEVI1. This is new for ZEVI2. And these are for, the energy efficiency strand is to fund the development and build of innovative vessel technology, vessel energy efficiency technology, and any accompanying innovative infrastructure upgrades. Got a couple of notes about energy efficiency. Please, again, review the competition pages online because there's a bit of nuance around it, what we consider energy efficiency technologies, what that term really means. I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty of it today, but it is all online about what it means to be energy efficient. There's a couple of things to note. We are aware that obviously there might be a bit of a blend of projects coming into this that may have energy efficiency technology coupled to an alternative fuel vessel or a 100% battery electric vessel. What I will say is that if your energy efficiency technology is installed on a vessel that's primarily being funded to use alternative fuels, you should apply to strand 1. If you're putting it on a vessel that is primarily being funded to use 100% battery electric, you must apply to strand 2, the electric power strand. And my initial point about making sure you bid into the wrong strand is ever relevant. If you're unsure, just come and speak to me and I can give you a steer. Focusing on strand 3 still, energy efficiency. These are some of the technologies that we're expecting into the energy efficiency strand. I'm not going to read through them all, but there's the usual suspects that you might consider when you're doing an energy efficiency project. Have a look through those. If you feel like you're relevant but not quite sure, come and speak to me as always. Just a note about if you're looking at onboard carbon capture and storage, OCCS projects, you must be demonstrating feasible use, permanent storage or disposal of any captured CO2 in order to satisfy the significant GHG emissions requirement of this competition. And I'll go over that requirement in a minute. So just be aware if you're looking at that particular technology. And those kind of operational energy efficiency measures focused on things like speed optimization, just-in-time arrival, voyage optimization, ballast and trim optimization are in scope. As you can imagine, they're fairly digital type technologies, so we can only allow them to be developed as part of a project focused on technical energy measures, including the above themes. So for more information on that, if you're not sure if you fall into that, just again, come and speak to me. More information about what we mean by energy efficiency is found in a couple of sources. There's one there which you won't be able to click because it's on a PowerPoint on the screen, but I think we'll be making the slides fairly public. That link is actually on the IFS page as well. It'll take you to a larger report about energy efficient technology, which I think is the Clean Maritime Research Hub report, so have a look at that. Just following on about that comment about digital, this applies now to all strands. Smart shipping, digital and autonomy technologies are in scope only if developed as part of a project focused on a central theme in each strand. So alternative fuels in strand 1, battery electric vessels in strand 2, and some of the energy efficiency technologies that I mentioned in strand 3. What we don't have in this competition is a standalone strand for pure digital technology projects. So again, if you're unsure, come and speak to me. Right, we have a few requirements that, again, we're really getting into the nitty-gritty here now, but I need to say it, and hopefully it should give you a flavour of what we're expecting from these projects. These are a list of requirements that are applicable to all strands, and this is going to be what we're expecting projects at their core to be doing to be able to be eligible for funding in this competition. So, proposals that come into this competition must be doing the things that are on the screen. So you must be evidencing that you can build or retrofit vessels with clean maritime technology and build accompanying infrastructure to be ready for demonstration by the 31st of December 2029. That's that funded period I was talking about. That is a key activity in this. You're building or retrofitting vessels with clean maritime technology and the infrastructure. You must be fully defining and costing and evidencing commercial viability of an extensive demonstration in real-world conditions for 3 years before the 31st of December 2032. So those first 2 bullet points are the key activities we're doing in these projects, which is a funded build period and unfunded demonstration period. And those are the key, the core requirements of any proposal. The underlying policy aim, one of the main underlying policy aims of this particular funding is about, as UK Shore implies, reducing emissions in the maritime sector. So the 3rd bullet point there is about demonstrating a significant reduction in the well-to-wake emissions, greenhouse gas emissions from the maritime sector. And this includes, where relevant, addressing air pollution risks or other environmental impacts where they're from decarbonisation solutions. And what I mean by that is, for example, the environmental impacts from using an ammonia system, alternative fuel system, for example, not the environmental impacts purely from fossil fuels. That 3rd bullet point I just want to focus on as well. That is, all these are key points, but that is like the underlying policy objective of this fund. If you're not reducing well-to-wake greenhouse gas emissions, including where relevant, addressing air pollution risks or other environmental impacts from decarbonisation solutions, in the maritime sector, specifically the maritime sector, which does have its own definition in the scope, you will be out of scope. So it's vitally important, if you think you're on a blurred line there, you come and speak to me, because we're looking at greenhouse gas emissions reductions in the maritime sector. 4th bullet there, your proposal must be including relevant representative end users, such as vessel operators, port or harbour authorities, and the end users must be an integral part of the project development and demonstration. Now, we've actually made this particular requirement a bit easy for you, because if you don't include them, you will be made ineligible. If you don't include them as a project partner, that is what I mean, you will be made ineligible. So you'll see in a bit, when Dawn speaks about the eligibility criteria, you'll see that we actually require UK-registered vessel owners, operators, or manufacturers as a project partner in your project. And for the projects that need infrastructure, which is definitely Strand 1 and Strand 2, you need to have an infrastructure owner-operator in the project as well, as a project partner. So if you don't have them, you don't have your end user, and therefore you'll be out of scope. And then the final one there is that we're Innovate UK, a big underlying policy objective of DFT. Those 2 things combined are focused on business-led research, and we need to see a clear commercial pathway for any technology that we fund with public money. We need to result in economic benefits and benefit for you guys as a business. So any project must be demonstrating significant market potential through a clear strategy for commercializing the technology and the products, demonstrating the potential for significant value to the UK. These things are all scope points. It means that in your application, we expect to see all these things being hit. And there's plenty of questions that are going to be asking about them in your application, as well as a scope section where you must fill in why you meet the core requirements of the competition. So you can't really put in a project unless you're answering these questions from the first proposal. Otherwise, it'll be out of scope. Absolutely key. The project itself, so the project requirements rather than the proposal requirements. The project itself must have a realistic and comprehensive build and retrofit plan that controls external risk associated with commercial, regulatory, and supply chain factors. It must demonstrate operational utilizations of your vessels and infrastructure, so that's the key, the demonstration bit of the project. And you must be operating in various locations and sea states while performing a range of duty cycles to reflect the end use case, commercial operational profile of your intended vessel, essentially. So we're looking for real-world, actual demonstration use cases of this technology. You must be collaborating fully with the organisations responsible for regulation, safety and incident response to conduct a safe demonstration. You've heard today from Jonty and the MCA, who are providing a fantastic new service in the Innovation Hub, really, really much needed. I'm really pleased that this has been set up. And they are providing the service to walk you through what it means to get your kit regulated, what you need to do. And so with that, there's no real excuse of why you haven't engaged regulators along the pathway of your project. So please, engage and use that function that Jonty and his team have got set up. It's a really fantastic resource. Your project must be ensuring all funded vessels and infrastructure are in operation by December 2029. That's when the funding cuts off. That's when we expect demonstrations to be starting. You can be deploying things earlier. We don't want to just sit in dry dock until you hit 31st December. If you want to deploy things earlier, that's fine, or in stages, if you've got like lots of vessels coming out, for instance. But the demonstration period starts once all funded technology is in operation. So everything that we've funded through your application needs to be in operation before we consider it starting. You need to ensure there's adequate training for all the vessels and infrastructure that's been developed. That's a key point. We're looking at very new technologies for crews and infrastructure operators. You need to ensure that they know how to operate that technology safely. You need to be developing training plans to ensure successful demonstration. And finally, you need to ensure there are appropriate repair and maintenance provisions for your vessels and infrastructure during the 3-year demonstration period. Don't forget, the 3-year demonstration period is unfunded. So any repair and maintenance activity that you haven't claimed for in the funded period will have to be funded at your own cost. Right, I'm sorry, there's more bullet points here. I can see eyes glazing over a little bit, that's fine. I have to put it on the screen for compliance reasons, trust me. Throughout and at the end of your project, there's a series of things that you need to do. I'm not going to rattle through in entirety, I'll just summarize. So you need to do a clear, detailed and costed plan to fully scale, which meets one of the objectives of the proposal. Produce a summary report for public release of lessons learned from the project. You need to quantify the reduction of well-to-weight greenhouse gas emissions to meet that key aim of the funding for this competition. So that's well-to-weight greenhouse gas emissions and the actual potential impacts on other emissions as well. You must develop evidence on expected commercial applications and exploitation, explain your understanding of barriers, detail the barriers to adoption, share your demonstration data, findings with Dept, which I'll come on to a bit more in a minute about how we're doing that, with Dept, MCA and Innovate UK, and any of our third-party contractors, of course, and produce a clear and plan for disseminating the results of your projects. And the very final bullet point here is providing the evidence required to support the DFT's evaluation of the scheme. That's a key point. We are, from Department for Transport through Innovate UK, giving out £150 million worth of public taxpayers' money. The deal is that you need to be giving us information back from what we're funding. So there's going to be really, really key evaluation activities, comprehensive evaluation activities that we expect you to be interacting with all through your projects. And there's a couple of things I'll mention in a minute what that involves. Right, the demonstration period itself, the 3-year demonstration period. What do you need to do in that? So essentially, you need to see the technology that you've developed operating in its commercial setting, in its operational setting, that's representative of what you're going to be doing, for years in the future. So your demonstration must include the vessel and infrastructure technology being used in a representative real-world operational environment for a period of at least 3 years. The demonstration must reflect a full-scale commercial operational profile, and the vessel and any infrastructure technology must have significant use through the demonstration period. So that is the core of what a demonstration is, what we consider it under this project. Now, maritime, being what it is not just a one vessel fits all sectors type of thing. We recognize through the breadth of technology we're trying to fund here, different vessels are going to be doing different things within the sector. So we have no fixed definition of how you should undertake your demonstration and use a 3-year period. It will completely depend on your individual project, the technology, and what is required to prove its performance. So we require projects to utilize this project as much as possible, to gather as much data as possible, and you must be sharing your application how exactly you're going to do that. And then the final there is you must clearly state how you plan to undertake the demonstration, including time and operational use. So you need to lay out exactly what's going on in a demonstration as part of your application. During the demonstration, you must validate the technology, vessel, and infrastructure operation for the use case or target market and capture data on the performance, including the impacts on GHG emissions and other environmental impacts. Goes without saying as a core aim of the competition. A quick note on where you're operating your vessels. Those of you who are interested in operating vessels in various parts of the UK, you must basically be demonstrating in the environment you're intending to do as a commercial demonstration. So projects which include a vessel intended to operate at sea must include appropriate demonstrations for 3 years at sea. We won't accept a demonstration for a seagoing vessel that is just going around a harbour for 3 years. If you're going to sea, you need to be going to sea with this demonstration. You can, of course, undertake initial tests in categorised waters under relevant regulatory rules before progressing to sea, subject to compliance with relevant regulations, but this must be done before the 3-year demonstration period itself. So that's part of your development rather than the actual demonstration. Vessels demonstration should plan to operate in a variety of sea states, if you're going to see. So vessels must comply with and be certified in accordance with the relevant regulations before proceeding to sea. Again, give a shout out to the MCA and their new function and how they might be able to help you with that. And the third bullet point here, I debated putting this one in the scope, but I think it needs to be said. Actually, you should be aware that the demonstration period needs to start in December 2029. We're in the UK, December 2029 is slap bang in the middle of winter, which is when sea states are typically greater around the UK. If you're going to sea, we can't really accept a delayed demonstration due to sea states. You're forewarned that your demonstration is starting in the middle of winter. If you want to start it early, you have to start it before December 2029. You can't start it afterwards. I just need to put that point out there, so be aware that demonstrations are starting in winter. And projects which include vessels operating on categorised waters, for example, inland waterways, so if you're never going to sea, that will never operate at sea, you can complete your full demonstration within categorised waters. We're getting there. So the 3-year demonstration period should take place in UK waters. This is often a question I get, wherever possible. Now, recognise there's all different vessels doing domestic stuff, doing international stuff. So if the vessel in your project is intended to operate in inland waterways or territorial seas only, the demonstration must take place only in UK waterways or UK territorial seas. That is a bare minimum expectation for any project you will fund here. If you're a domestic vessel, you're only operating in a domestic way, you need to be doing that in the UK, not anywhere else in the world. However, we recognise there's international vessel operations, and we recognise the technology that's going on in vessels that are going to be operated internationally. So international vessel operations are only acceptable where they are for a normal and necessary part of the vessel's commercial and operational profile. International journeys under the demonstration period of ZEVI2 must be fully justified and the benefit to the UK very clearly explained in your application. A couple of key requirements for international journeys are that you must originate from the UK, you must have frequent visits to the UK as part of your demonstration period, and we will not fund international infrastructure nor accept operations originating outside the UK. So, for example, if you're operating an electric vessel that crosses the North Sea, if you can do that, then we wouldn't be funding charging infrastructure and the non-UK side of that particular route. All the infrastructure needs to be all the funded infrastructure needs to be in the UK. Right, I mentioned this, the sort of the deal we have about us giving you 150 million and you giving us stuff back. Monitoring and evaluation is an absolutely core part of what we're doing with this program. Throughout the project, you will be required to engage with a few evaluation activities. There are 2 main ones. The first is a general program evaluation activity that will be from the Department for Transport. They'll be doing this across the UK Shore Programme to evaluate the impacts and how the UK Shore Programme is working, and ZEVI2 is no exception to that. So you will be asked for information about how you're operating with the project, how you're finding working with the project, how you're delivering things, what things you're delivering, the impact of things. There's all sorts of questions they'll be asking you, which will become clear as you are successful in your project. The second main evaluation activity is a technical study, and that's going to be run, well, by us, but maybe through a third-party contract. That is basically understanding the real technical impact and variables that are happening within your projects. So we will be tracking and requiring you to provide technical data on your technology, vessel operation, infrastructure operation, impacts on greenhouse gas emissions, impact on downtime, impacts on all sorts of things. We will be issuing further guidance on this evaluation activity. I want to just say that it's going to be such a key part of the program that you should probably be looking at dedicating a bit of resource, and I say a bit, probably a fair bit of resource, to ensuring that you can do this to the best of your ability. Because it's a requirement, if you fail to engage and fail to allocate appropriate resource to the project for evaluation activity, you could result in your project being suspended and funding withdrawn. So I just need to put that one out there. That's the deal we got, okay, with the money that's coming out there. So I'll just repeat, successful projects will be required to engage with DFT, Innovate UK, and third-party contractors appointed by them relating to evaluation of, that should say ZEVI2 projects, sorry, but it does go for CMC projects as well. And data shared with these parties is expected to include written application responses. So your applications that come to us obviously come to us. We will obviously be sharing those with DFT because they need to see what's coming in. It includes project initiation data, monitoring data, end of project reports, and involvement in some primary data collection activities such as surveys and focus groups. Of course, all information will be treated commercially sensitive. We will be having conversations with you about this. We're not just going to fire you stuff with no background. We will be having conversations, particularly with ZEVI2 projects, about what you can provide, what you should be providing, and how it's going to be treated. Right. I promise I'm getting there, and I'll hand over to the more interesting stuff for Dawn. This is a complex competition, and there is a lot of stuff going on. So I appreciate there's a lot here. This is being recorded. You can watch me back afterwards. You can review the pages on IFS for all this information. Don't feel like you're missing out if you've zoned out a little bit. This is some key stuff, though. So priority themes in this competition. So the priority theme in this competition, there's only one. And basically, this priority theme is not the only theme we want in it. It's all applications that meet the scope of the competition are welcome, but we're particularly interested in this particular thing, which is projects that involve multiple vessels with multiple end users. And that is a key thing we're looking for, because what we're doing with this funding is trying to ensure that technology development is scaled and has a clear commercial pathway to many different end users. So the projects that are already doing that as part of the project is something we'd quite like to see. You won't be scored any higher if you meet this priority theme. All projects are scored in the same way, but it's of an application we particularly want to see in our portfolio. So just bear that in mind. If you're doing that, that's great. However, your priority theme projects are not just focused on that. You can't just have loads of fossil fuel vessels with multiple end users and then you're in the competition. You've got to be meeting, obviously, the core themes of the competition, which are as follows. Which aren't as follows. Which are, as the scope words are on the previous few slides I said. So the alternative fuels, the energy efficiency strands, and the battery electric strands as well. Apologies, I'm obviously trying to condense this a little bit. We do have a few exclusions. So these are things that if you're doing within your project, we can't fund. If you're focusing on these things, we can't fund them. So there's a few key areas. You will be made ineligible if you actually come in with one of these themes. So the first is focusing on increasing the combustion efficiency or improving the design of conventional fossil fuel powertrains, except where related to waste heat recovery. Basically, that means we don't want to fund just the core fossil fuel powertrain improvements. That's not what this fund is about. We're looking at the themes that are in those other strands. We're not funding projects that are including funded costs for fossil fuel and fossil fuel powertrains. We're not going to be funding the purchase of loads of diesel, nor massive bouts of costs on fossil fuel powertrains themselves. We're not funding projects that are focusing on battery electric vessels in Strand 2 that are not 100% battery electric. For example, the propulsion systems are a hybrid of an electric and fossil fuel. It has to be 100% battery electric. We're not funding projects that are focusing on shore power systems that are not novel, innovative, commercially viable. Refer back to what I said earlier about that. We're not funding projects that are focusing on marine conservation and ecology. Just because this is a maritime competition doesn't mean everything that happens in the sea is within scope, so just bear that in mind. We're not funding projects that are focusing on removing non-GHG and indirect GHGs from the combustion products of conventional fossil fuels and synthetic fossil fuels. Bit of a complex one to get your head around. Come and speak to me if you think you're in that. Obviously, we have carbon capture within scope, but there are of Strand 3. But there are other things, scrubbing stuff from the exhaust of engines that are not in scope of this competition. We're not funding projects that are focused on non-methanol biofuels, except for projects that utilise biofuels as a pilot fuel or secondary fuel on vessels predominantly powered by methanol, ammonia, or hydrogen. That's our zero or net zero GHG emissions. So we're aware that biofuels is a big topic of conversation within the maritime sector at the moment. We're not funding projects that are just purely focused on biofuels. They can come in as like a pilot fuel or a secondary fuel, but the main focus of your project needs to be on alternative fuels and 100% battery electric and energy efficiency. A few others. We're not funding projects that are focused on personal watercraft, focusing on the use and production of synthetic fuels. This exclusion does not apply to the use of near zero greenhouse gas emission methanol, ammonia, and hydrogen fuels. Come and speak to me if you're about production of fuels, because we need to talk a little bit around those exclusions. We're not funding projects that are focusing on submarines and submersible vessels, focusing on military applications entirely, focusing on that are covered by existing commercial agreements to deliver proposed solutions and are a duplicate of existing innovation. That last one goes without saying, I think. Right, end users. Let's say Dawn will go about the eligibility criteria in a minute, so it's the official lines on those, but you must be including representative end users, and this is what we really mean. So alternative fuel and electric power strand project collaborations must include, as I said earlier, a UK registered ship owner, manufacturer or operator, and you must include a UK registered infrastructure owner operator, for example, a port, harbour, marina, inland waterway authority or wind farm. Energy efficiency strand projects are slightly different in terms of that eligibility criteria. So you must be including a UK registered ship owner, manufacturer and operator, similar to strand 1 or 2. And we recognise that energy efficiency projects may not always have a clear infrastructure technology being developed in tandem. But if you do, and it's obvious that you need one, you must be including a UK registered infrastructure owner or operator if the project requires infrastructure development. Types of vessels. All sizes and categories of maritime vessels subject to the Merchant Shipping Act 1995 are in scope, including commercial, fishing, pleasure, and agricultural vessels. Solutions can be suitable for one target size of vessel or multiple. So you can have multiple vessels in this project. They must comply with relevant regulations when undertaking voyages and, where appropriate, be certified subject to vessel type. And these vessels cannot proceed to sea without relevant seagoing certification. For a project, now this is a key bit, because I know a lot of you are focused on the flag of the vessels that you're going to be trying technology on. If you are building a new hull as part of this project, the vessel must be a United Kingdom ship, built to classification society or certifying authority rules. And you must remain a UK ship under that classification society or certifying authority for the full demonstration period. It's absolutely key. We need to see benefits to the UK flag. We're funding the build of these vessels. There's not really much of an excuse to not go under the UK flag if you're doing a new build. So that's a must requirement. UK ship, by the way, is defined in 85.2 of the Merchant Shipping Act 1995. If you are retrofitting technology, that is, you're putting technology on an existing vessel, the vessel is expected to be a United Kingdom ship. Otherwise, you must provide justification for not using a UK ship in your application. The vessel must be, again, under classification society or certifying authority rules during build or retrofit and during the demonstration period. So you've got to be really clear, if you're retrofitting technology on a non-UK ship, why you couldn't have done it on a UK ship. And I would expect to see evidence that you have approached UK ship owners, operators. Projects involving a vessel must engage the MCA. We have a clear route for doing that during the project. And the MCA may also contact you individually, successful projects, after you're notified to discuss the details of your project. Failure to engage with them, the key regulator of Maritime in the UK, when requested, could result in your project being suspended or funding withdrawn. Types of infrastructure. So strand 1, strand 2, strand 3 have different types. I won't read through these, I promise. So it's physical structures and systems necessary to do alternative fuels in strand 1, 100% battery electric operations in strand 2, or shore power operations. And in strand 3, any physical infrastructures or systems necessary to enable vessel operations within your energy efficiency technology. So have a look at those. There's obviously quite a few different bits of infrastructure that can come into these projects to enable what you need to do with the vessels. So UK fund, UK taxpayers' money. We're obviously looking at key value for UK money. We strongly encourage projects from around the UK to support jobs and economic growth, including projects from ports, vessel operators, vessel manufacturers, and their supply chain. We do welcome projects from areas with existing clean maritime expertise or co-located in clusters of renewable energy production and usage, including hydrogen. A key point about IP, there's going to be a lot of IP developed in these projects, which is great. You need to clearly demonstrate in your application how you're going to be anchoring that IP in the UK. And you need to ensure that you're going to be exploiting that IP for the benefit of the UK supply chain and the wider economy in the future. You will get asked questions on this in your application. Don't just think that you can just take your IP off or overseas when you're done. We do need a clear plan for how you're securing that IP in the UK for the UK taxpayers' money, of course. We're encourage new consortia that have been successful, and those that have been successful and were funded by previous CMDC competitions to apply for further funding support to continue developing your projects. Ian presented on the screen earlier that nice TRL flow through of things from all the way from the Clean Maritime Research Hub through to ZEVI. We're quite keen to see and encourage projects coming from CMDC to go on to the next stage of development into ZEVI. However, you're not required to have been successful in the previous round of CMDC or in ZEVI1 to be eligible to be coming into round 2, but it's something we might like to see. We are reserving the right to do a portfolio approach in this competition. What that means is we want to fund a variety of projects across different priority themes, specific themes, strands, technologies, markets, technology maturities, research categories and locations. We call this a portfolio approach, which will be used to make funding decisions in this competition if we choose. If you're not familiar with what that really means, have a look at what we call portfolio approach on the Innovate UK website. It gives you a bit more information about that. Right, you'll be glad to know this is my last slide. It's the most important one because you have listened to me just talk through, I don't know, about 20, 30 very text-heavy slides. As I say, it's quite a lot of detail to take in. If you're unsure about any of it at all, if you have the silliest question, you think it's the silliest question going, it's not silly for me, it's important, and you need to get it to me in a timely manner. So come and speak to me at support@iuk.ukri.org. What I really hate to see, just personally, it's really, really sad, is when, and it has happened before and it will happen in the future, is when someone has put hundreds of hours into an application and you get thrown out at the first hurdle because of some of the rules we have to have in these competitions for compliance reasons. It's vitally important that you clear up with me to ensure that you don't be one of those sad applications that unfortunately has to be made ineligible. ZEVI2 is the big UK Shore Phase 2 support mechanism. There's currently only one shot at that, and so you need to get it right first time. Make sure you get your stuff into me, your questions into me at support@iuk.ukri.org. Right, Dawn, I've droned on a lot, so I'll let you refresh everyone if I come in with the application process itself. So please pay attention to what Dawn's about to say. I've talked about the scope of the competition. She's about to talk about how you actually apply, the eligibility criteria, what is involved in the application. It's all vitally important stuff if you haven't done an Innovate UK competition before. If you have done an Innovate UK competition before, there's different stuff in this. You've got to listen to it. There's really different stuff about capital costs and things. So Dawn will very kindly take you through that and should be around for a bit today to ask for her to ask about application process. We've also got, I think we've got a bit of time, a Q&A after this where you can ask your questions publicly if you wish. So Dawn, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for bearing with.
So, hello. My name's Dawn Manser. I'm the competition manager for this competition. So this is the agenda for my presentation. We'll look at the key dates for this competition. We'll go through the competition summary, eligibility criteria, how to start an application on the Innovation Funding Service, which we refer to as IFS, the funding rules for this competition, and some information about assessment and additional support. We'll end with some useful links and a Q&A, and then I believe James is going to come back on stage to answer some questions. So these are the key dates to bear in mind for this competition. The three strands for this competition opened on the 26th of March and will close on the 16th of September 2026 at 11 a.m. It's important to note the deadline because IFS will automatically close at this time and the applications can no longer be submitted after 11. So please don't leave your submission to the last minute. And contact customer support well in advance of the deadline if you experience any difficulties with submitting your application so that we can assist you in good time. So we will inform you whether or not you've been successful with the competition on the 4th of January 2027 by 5 p.m. If successful, you'll then move into the project setup, which takes around 90 days. So meaning you should start your project by the 1st of April 2027. So the hard stop date for ending your grant funding is the 31st of December 2029. Now I'm going to talk about the eligibility criteria for this competition. So your project must have total eligible costs between £6 and £60 million, start by the 1st of April 2027, claim all grant funding by the 31st of December 2029, Complete a non-funded 3-year demonstration starting by 1st of January 2030 and ending by 31st of December 2032. Have a maximum total project grant funding request of no more than 30 million, of which no more than 20 million can be allocated to a single participant. So projects must always start on the 1st of the month, even if this is a non-working day, and this must be stated within your application. So to lead a project, your organisation must be a UK registered business of any size, be or collaborate with a UK registered ship owner, manufacturer or operator, be or collaborate with a UK registered infrastructure owner or operator, so for example a port, a harbour, a marina, inland waterway authority or wind farm. And more information on the different types of organisations can be found on our funding rules. And as James has already said, we will post these slides on IFS, so you can click on the links. For your project to count as an eligible collaboration, there are 2 things you must do. So first, both the lead organisation and at least one partner must apply for funding. And this means each organisation needs to enter its own project costs in the application, not just the lead. Second, you need to explain why you're collaborating. So tell us the reasons you're working together, how the partnership will operate, who is doing what, and how you'll coordinate. So to collaborate with the lead, your organisation must be one of these organisation types. And to be an eligible collaboration, the lead and at least one other organisation must apply for funding when entering their costs into the application. So your project can include partners that do not receive any funding, so for example non-UK businesses. However, their costs will count towards the total project costs. So we are allowing you to use subcontractors, and it is worth pointing out that additional wording to our standards. So any overseas subcontracting will be assessed for value for money for the UK. Your grant offer may be withdrawn if you use overseas subcontractors that has not been approved by Innovate UK following a notification of success. So some of these slides are quite busy, but they will be available. So in terms of number of applications, these are the rules. So a business can only lead on one application across all 3 strands of the competition. A business can also lead on one application across all 3 strands of clean maritime demonstration competition, so CMDC7. So if leading an application, a business can also be included as a collaborator or subcontractor in 2 further applications across all 3 strands of this competition and the CMDC7. If a business is not leading any application, it can collaborate or be a subcontractor in any number of applications across all 3 strands of the ZEVI2 and the CMDC7 competitions, and applications that do not meet these requirements will be made ineligible in order of the most recent submission being made ineligible first. So this competition does allow you to submit a previously submitted application. Please be aware that addressing assessor feedback does not necessarily guarantee that the application will be funded. So now we'll look at how you start and complete your application on IFS. So when you start an application on the Innovation Funding Service, the first step is creating an account. So we've made this a bit simpler. You'll begin by choosing an organisation type that best describes you, using the radio buttons. So once you've selected that, you'll be asked to enter your organisation name and pick it from the list. If you're a business or a research organisation, you'll use the Companies House lookup so that you can compare your company number, and this helps us with eligibility criteria checks later on if your application is successful. For academic institutions, it's even easier. Just type your organisation name and select it from the lists that appear. And finally, if your organisation hasn't been registered yet, that's absolutely fine. You can enter your details manually. So for this competition, you'll be asked a series of unscored questions initially, giving the details of your team and summary of your project. So then we'll come to the main application questions. For this competition, we have 14 scored questions. So please take note of all the guidance given within each question, whether or not you can upload an appendices or in support of your answer, and if so, how many pages this appendix should be. And again, all guidance is on IFS. So, subject to certain criteria, UK applicants are legally required to tell the government about acquisitions of certain entities in 17 sensitive areas of the economy. So these are called notifiable acquisitions. So more information can be found via the link on the slide. The 17 areas are as described on the slide. If you're uncertain about whether an acquisition is notifiable, you may contact the government on investment.screening@cabinetoffice.gov.uk to seek a view and get legal advice from your own sources. So in response to this need, we have included 2 unscored questions into the application form. So you'll need to let Innovate UK know if the strategic export controls apply to the information in your application, so we can ensure that you do not share this with any of our assessors that are based outside of the UK. You should also consider if you need a licence to work with international partners or contractors during or after the project. If you do need a licence to export information outside the UK, then you should also be mindful of what you share with international partners or contractors. So, in the first of the additional unscored questions, you are asked whether your work involves any international collaboration or engagement. If yes, you must provide details of any expected international collaboration or engagement. You must include a list of the names and the countries that any international project participants are based in, which must also include details of any subcontractors or service providers. If your proposal does not involve international collaboration or engagement, your answer must confirm this. So the second question, or the second additional unscored question, asks you to explain if your proposed project work relates to UKRI's trusted research and innovation principles, as per the bullets on the slide. So please take time to review the criteria around export controls via the links on the slides when you add them to IFS. And as per the previous slide, please remember, if there's any uncertainty about whether an acquisition is notifiable, you may contact the government on investment.screening@cabinetoffice.gov.uk to seek a view or get legal advice from your own sources. So each organisation in your application will be asked to complete a project impact questionnaire. And these questions help Innovate UK to measure the impact our support has on organisations, businesses and individuals. So the project questionnaires are not scored and do not form any part of the assessment of your application. However, you'll not be able to submit your application until you and all your partners complete this. So please take a look early on in your application. Again, more information regarding project impact can be found on our website or by following the links on the slide. So you could get funding for your eligible project capital costs for the duration of the project up until 31st December 2029 of up to 80% of your investment into vessels used for your demonstration, infrastructure used for your demonstration. For those of you familiar with IFS, you'll notice 3 new sections around capital costs. So you must split your capital costs into labour, expenditure and other. It's worth also noting ineligible R&D and capital costs. So working capital to enable commercial production, costs of materials sold as part of the limited commercial activity, costs of expenses that will be incurred or defrayed, outside of the time period covered by the live phase of the project, contingency costs, any fees associated with any periodic audit, or accountancy reports that are required in accordance with the grant. So these are all the categories that you'll be asked to split your project costs into in the finance section of the application, and the application finances video will provide further instructions on how to complete each of these sections, including how academics include their finances. There's also guidance within each category on IFS. So in your project finances there are 4 categories, and each organisation with an application must complete their own finance information. So there's your project costs. So this is where you add in your costs by category. Project location, this is where you enter the postcode of where most of the project work will take place. Your organisation, please add details of your organisation, including size, turnover, number of employees, the size that business declares here, along with any research category, if applicable, is what IFS will use to calculate your funding level. Okay. As the lead applicant, you must check your finances are complete and correct. So your total costs and funding request must be in accordance with the competition's eligibility criteria. So be careful to note the difference between the cost of your project and the amount of grant funding you are requesting. IFS will highlight to the lead applicant any partners who have outstanding project finances to complete. All finances must be included in the application before the lead can submit. IFS will also check your research participation costs are within the required limits. IFS does not validate your project costs. It is your responsibility to ensure all costs are within the eligible perimeters as stated in the eligibility section of the competition brief. So before you submit your application, all organisations within an application must agree to the terms and conditions, and IFS will not let you submit if this is outstanding. So this is my favourite slide. So we want to stress how important it is for you to submit your application as early as possible. Customer support can help resolve any issues you might have when submitting, but only if they're contacted in good time before the deadline. So the lead carries the responsibility of ensuring that all partners in the application have completed their assigned sections and accepted their T's and C's. So this chart shows some of the most recent competitions, and the red bar denotes all submissions in the last 3 hours before closing. So we don't allow extensions. So if you leave it too late and then experience technical issues, we may not be able to help you in time and you won't be able to submit. But if you need to edit your application after it's been submitted, this is possible, but obviously before the submission deadline. First, you need to reopen your application. On your IFS dashboard, you'll see the option to reopen as shown on the slide. The option to reopen is also visible on your application status page. So once reopened, you can make changes to your application, but when you've finished, please remember to resubmit before the deadline. Click on the green Review and Submit button, review your application once more, and then click the final Submit button. If you reopen your application and do not resubmit it, we will not accept it. So please note, as per the previous slide, we can monitor the site usage. So when preparing your application, it's important that I share with you some things you should consider if planning to use AI to support you. So Innovate UK does not endorse or oppose the use of AI technology. However, we're obviously seeing an increase in the use of AI in applications. So it is necessary you do your own research as to whether or not this is the right tool for you, and consider the pros and cons of using this technology. If you do use it, Innovate UK does not accept any responsibility for any impact on your idea. And whilst AI offers many benefits, it's important that you're aware that you are potentially sharing your idea with the world. So, with the GES system no longer supported, we have enhanced IFS to reflect how you enter academic costs in track. We hope you find this to be much simpler and more intuitive. So, a mandatory requirement to upload detailed costs must be a PDF format. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong slide. So, following track guidelines, academic costs are captured under the following categories: directly incurred, directly allocated, indirect costs, and exceptions. And then a mandatory requirement to upload their detailed costs must be PDF format and approved by the research office. So, I'm now going to mention some funding rules and how your grant would be awarded should you be successful. You are unable to claim funding if your company's house number contains FC, BR, ML, JE, or you're based in Guernsey or the Isle of Man. There are some instances where we would not be able to award you any funding. This could be if you have an outstanding final claim or have been asked to supply an independent accountant's report, which we call an IAR, on a live Innovate UK project, but you have not supplied it. So in this case, you will not be eligible to apply for this competition as a lead or a partner organisation, and we'll also not award you any further funding if you've not been able to not made a substantial effort to exploit a previous award and or failed to comply with the grant terms and conditions. So we award our grants under the UK subsidy control regime, which incorporates various agreements and frameworks, and this slide shows the definition of a subsidy. So Innovate UK is unable to award funding to organisations that are considered to be in financial difficulty. All organisations that are awarded funding are subjected to financial viability and eligibility checks. So if you're an applicant who is conducting activities that will affect the trade of goods and/or electricity between Northern Ireland and the EU, as envisaged by Article 10 of the Windsor Framework, then your grant would be awarded under European Commission state aid rules. In order to be eligible to receive state aid, you must pass the undertakings and difficulty test. This only applies to limited liability companies that are more than 3 years old. If you have a parent company, the test can be performed on your parent or holding company. If you are successful in the competition, we will apply this test as part of the viability checks. If your project falls under the Windsor Framework, it will need to comply with state aid rules, and in some cases this can mean lower intervention rates. So now on to assessment. To help you understand what happens when you've submitted your application, Innovate UK have provided, or produced even, a series of videos, so please do watch them on YouTube at your leisure. So you'll receive a notification explaining the next steps if you pass the technical assessment, where you'll proceed to project setup in IFS. So all 8 steps are detailed in your notification, which you must complete within the maximum of 90 calendar days. So please be patient during this stage. Assigning MSPs and getting finance checks completed can take several weeks. Please ensure you share the T's and C's with your legal team at the earliest possible opportunity. So once notified, you'll have 30 calendar days to do this. The final steps will be to sign and return a grant offer letter, and we must approve it, and then you'll get the go live email confirming you can start your project. Your project will always have a start date of the 1st of the month, and you can only claim for costs incurred between the start and the end date. So how you get paid: grants are claimed and paid out following authorisation quarterly in arrears. Organisations being funding at less than 100% will need to provide evidence, and they will have funding available to meet their shared costs. You can only claim for costs incurred between your project start and end date, and grant can only be paid into an approved UK bank account. So please note we carry out regular reviews of authorised accounts to ensure they remain compliant with FCA and PRA standards, and we may remove any organisation from the list that does not meet these standards. So before we end, I just want to touch on our partners, business growth, and also reasonable adjustments. At Innovate UK, we want our competitions to be accessible to everyone. So if you have a disability or a long-term condition that might make the application process tricky, we can put support in place to help remove these barriers. If you think you'll need an adjustment, you can get in touch with us at any time. We do recommend reaching out 15 days before the competition closes, just so we have enough time to arrange the right support for you. All the contact details are on the slide, so please don't hesitate to use them. If you do request a reasonable adjustment, there's a bit of information we'll need to, so we can help you out properly. So initially we require your name, organisation, your email, phone number, and which competitions you're applying to. If you've already started an application, your application number is really helpful too. We'll also need your consent to share your details with Innovate UK Business Connect, and they can only support you once our customer support team have referred you. So that consent is important. There's a link on the slide with more details if you want to read through the process later. So now in terms of the kinds of adjustments we offer, here are some of the options, but say this list is not exhaustive. So depending on what you need, we can help you with things like proofreading, clarifying language, providing helpful resources, linking you up with experts, or supporting you with things like time management or note-taking. It's all about making sure the application process itself isn't a barrier for you. And remember, this is all tailored to the individual, so if you're not sure what you need, again, contact customer support team. It's also important to be clear about reasonable adjustments that we can't cover. So these adjustments are there to level up the playing field, not to influence your application content or to give you an advantage. So we can't offer things like deadline extensions, help choosing which competition to apply for, developing your idea, advising whether it's in scope, providing financial advice, or helping with research. So this support is here to help you access and navigate the process, not to shape the application itself. I'll take this opportunity to talk about Innovate UK's business growth, and as their tagline says, they are the indispensable partner for ambitious innovators. So they support ambitious, innovation-focused businesses that have won an Innovate UK competition and are growing strongly and have high growth potential. They may be contacted about support. So They support registered at Companies House with up to 250 employees and management team motivated to engage fully with us to help achieve growth milestones. We're nearly there. Innovate UK Business Growth Support is fully funded and will be offered to all successful UK-based SME competition applicants following the start of their projects. It's also available to unsuccessful applicants, and you can find out more about the service and how to access it via the inquiry line or website. We would like to draw your attention to the Cyber Action Toolkit. The website and link is on the slide. Here we have some useful links to help and provide support to you during the application process and beyond. We highly recommend that you read our general guidance and check out Business Connect's Good Application Guide. If you need any help with pulling together your collaboration agreement, then please do check out the Lambert Toolkit. We cannot otherwise advise you on how to put this together. We've also provided some useful links to help you keep you updated and in touch with all the opportunities that are available. That brings us to the end of my presentation, and I'd like to invite James up for the Q&A section.
Roving mics. Good. Thank you guys for bearing with us on that. It's a lot of stuff that we have to brief out. I hope you understand why, because all these things are key parts of the competition. The rest of the day, you'll be pleased to know, is not just slideshow after slideshow of walls of text. We are here to actually form partnerships and talk about the competitions. What I will say today is also about CMC Round 7 in terms of networking. We talked about ZEVI2. We've done the CMC 7 briefing already online. If you're in the room to talk about CMC 7, welcome. Thank you for coming along. This is a networking event for you guys as well. Don't feel like just because I've talked about ZEVI2 that you are forbidden from talking about CMC 7. So yeah, all's game. I'm going to do Q&A. I think, I don't know if there are mics, Reuven. There is. Can I have a few public questions, please, before we break for lunch? If you don't want to speak publicly, then I can answer them afterwards. But yeah, a few public questions would be great. Thank you. Leo over here, please. Can you state your name, where you're from, and speak into the microphone? Thanks.
Hi, Leo Hambro from Tidal Transit, crew transfer vessel owner operator. The ZEVI2 focusing on electrification and offshore wind, for example, there is a requirement to have a utility or an offshore wind owner as part of the project. And I believe that you said that the capital eligibility was up to 80% for capital costs. But then in Dawn's presentation, it says that the companies that are supported have to be registered on Companies House and have less than 250 employees.
That was just, I think, that was just in relation to the business growth support. Do you mean one of the last few slides? That was, yeah. So no, that was just in relation to a very specific support mechanism we have for SMEs.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, in general, to be able to claim grant funding, you need to be UK registered. So overseas, people can't claim it. And on your specific point about getting your infrastructure partners involved, come and speak to me after that, because I just need to understand who you're trying to get involved. Basically, the eligibility criteria says a UK registered infrastructure owner operator. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single infrastructure person needs to be a partner on the project. Understand there's different ways of operating your project. And so it's best if you come and speak to me afterwards about your specific idea. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
Yeah, good idea. I'll just, hang on, if I just go back to that slide just for clarity. So yeah, this is the Innovate UK Business Growth is a sister organisation for Innovate UK. They are there to support small, medium enterprises with their growth journey. And so it's open to small, medium enterprises up to 250 employees. That's not saying the competition is only open to companies up to 250 employees. Large organisations, to be clear, are allowed to bid into this competition. Okay, any other questions, please?
Yes.
Ah, sorry. You're just standing there and you're pointing back.
Waiting patiently. Simon Powell, MSc International, a research technology organisation. I have a question about the demonstration period. So
sure.
The demonstration period should show significant utilisation of a commercially viable service or system. What happens, what are the implications if during the demonstration period, external factors such as a global energy price shock, for example, make what was predicted to be commercially viable is no longer attractive to your customers, so the system is underutilized? What are the implications for the project and indeed the funding?
Okay, very, very interesting question. Right. What we ask up front in the applications is you to consider comprehensively the risk to your project from all sorts of sources. Now, I guess no one can really predict global energy markets and some of the stuff we've been seeing in recent events to put into a risk register. But you've got to be understanding that if you are subject to global factors, then you've probably got to consider that in some way for your OPEX costs that are going to be unfunded. If it transpires during a demonstration period that you can no longer operate it, we need to have a conversation on a case-by-case basis. What we can't say is blanket, yep, be fine, carry on, just shut down the project, nor can we say, blanket, we're going to just recoup every single bit of grant funding we've given to you. It's going to have to be done on a conversation. What we're expecting, though, is actually up front, the assessor is going to be looking at the risks to your project. They're going to be looking at the answer to your risk question. And if they can quite clearly see that there are global factors that are going to be affecting your project that you haven't accounted for and have risk management plans in place, they will be marking you down. So if you haven't considered, it's best you just apply look at it now, try and anticipate it now, get it in your risk register, and proper controls in place, because ultimately, if you are being affected by things like that, you might not actually get funded in the first place. Good question, thank you.
Nigel Lee from Robustus Automation, software for autonomous navigation. Can you just confirm the funding levels for both lead partners, subcontractors and academia, and is it the same for ZEVI as well as CMDC 7?
The funding limits for subcontracting, is that the question, sorry?
No, for all, for the lead, the partners, academia, that wasn't covered, I don't think.
Okay, right, so ZEVI2 is quite, Dawn touched on this, but ZEVI2 is a bit different from CMC7 in this respect. So we allow project costs between 6 and 60 million. However, we can only give out a maximum grant for a single project in total grant of 30 million, which means that if you have a 60 million pound project, you can't actually claim up to 80% because of that limit. So just bear that in mind. Now, for a single participant, the maximum grant you can claim in any one project under ZEVI2 is 20 million. In CMC7, we don't have such limits because we have the project costs up to 15 million. So you can theoretically apply for however much grant you want in those projects. But be aware that there is a bit of a balance of project costs within CMC7 that you need to pay attention to. No one partner can take up more than 70% of the costs. Does that make any sense, or is it you're looking at me confused?
A bit after, is it 100% match funded? It's currently on CMDC 6, we're only 70% as a collaborator, as a partner.
There's no 100% match funding there's no 100% funding unless you are.
For industry, is it up to 80% then?
Sorry, I'm not quite understanding.
Is that on real term values rather than just percentage? Because you're talking about actual values, 60 you can only claim 30, whereas in previous rounds it's been up to 70% of your costs.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I might have to have a conversation with you afterwards. I'm not quite getting the question. My bad. Sorry. Can we have a chat afterwards?
Yeah, okay, certainly.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, James. Julie Macon, Port of London Authority. I just wondered if you could expand a bit on what novel means in the context of onshore power supply, particularly at the technology readiness level that you're looking for through ZEVI.
Yeah, okay. I don't have a full definition that would be in sort of a patent act or anything like that, but ultimately we'll be looking at different shore power systems that have already come into operation. What is different about your project from those previous ones? And what I'm not saying is that every single bit of cost in a shore power project is expected to be brand new, never before seen beyond the state of the art. But we need to see that these technologies, recognizing there are shore power is not necessarily new technology in its system level, we need to understand what's innovative about your project and what bits are separating from the state of the art. So ultimately, it's up to you to show that in the application. You need to be saying, in response to questions, this is what we're doing in our approach that's different from others, and that's where we'll assess novelty, basically against things. It's not saying that every single component of your project has to be brand new. Okay, hope that helps. Thank you.
Adrian Green, Megawatt Marine and Infrastructure Consultancy. We've heard a lot about propulsion systems for vessels and general sort of transit, decarbonisation. Would a proposal which considers sort of operationally, back deck equipment, would that be considered within scope if it was specific to vessels?
Do you mean sort of, because the strands are focused on, for strand 1 and 2, alternative fuels and battery electric vessels, we're expecting those projects to focus on the propulsion of those vessels rather than just individual equipment on board, I guess. So we're expecting to see that. But strand 3 possibly where we're looking at equipment on board. It may be, I think what you'll have to do is come to me with the exact idea that you've got for that, and I can have a look if it fits in strand 3. Essentially, we're looking for technology that reduces the energy use of vessels within strand 3. And if you're looking at energy efficient maritime transport equipment on board to do that, that could be within scope. I think I just need to take on a case-by-case basis if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions, please? Yes, Mark.
Hi, James. So I'm Mark Ray from the Connected Places Catapult. Sorry to labour the point again, just to come back to Julie's bit around the shore power and the novelty factor. Again, we've had lots of conversations around this internally, as you can imagine. So there have been a series of projects undertaken both within the UK Shore Programme and also outside of the UK Shore Programme through other funds looking at shore power. Could, in terms of eligibility for here, if we're introducing something which then makes those projects, even though some of the technology has been trialled in those, it hasn't reached commercial maturity because it's not commercially viable in its current form. If we're doing it in a slightly different way and approaching it in a different way, but still using the same proven technology, but the management system and the energy management system there. So I'm thinking now about stacking users, for example, into that system that then makes that commercially viable to proceed beyond the deadline. Is that going to be eligible? Yeah, will we be able to cover the costs of, for example, things like the cabling, which is still standardized cabling, but it's our management system, which is now, and our commercial stacking of other users and other off-takers that's now making the system commercially viable. Is that going to become eligible?
Good question. So we're talking about obviously adding extra bits of innovation to existing shore power run-of-the-mill capital costs of digging up ground and adding cabling. I think the point still stands. It's up to you to prove within your project what the focus of your project is on that is novel and innovative. We're not expecting every single cost to be associated with a novel technology necessarily, but you need to prove the commercial viability and innovativeness of that technology. I think from what you're discussing there about a management approach, I would be looking at where the focus of your costs align. I mean, if you have, it might not necessarily be a scope thing. We could assess it as being novel, but the assessors might look very carefully as if you had a £60 million project, 59 million of which is going towards digging up the ground. What is the value for money of public money for that? So just be careful, I think. Although it sounds like it could possibly pass the novelty check, I need to check in detail if you can get me a project idea, as always. It may be that you have to consider actual value for money for the costs themselves. Okay, thanks, Mark. Good question. Any others? Over here, please.
Hello, Matt Bloomfield from Vertical Aerospace. So just carry on from the last two questions. If anybody needs an innovative shore power supply, come and say hello. But is there the opportunity through this afternoon as part of networking to address everybody and discuss what we can bring to a consortium or what people need?
Ooh, good question. I don't think we have plans to do a stand-up pitching session, do we?
No, unfortunately not. What we will do, I will talk in a minute a bit about our online networking platform that we've launched for UK Shore. So that's going to be live and available for everybody until September. So it'll cover both CMDC7 and ZEVI2. But I'll talk more about that in a minute and how you can register.
Thanks, Peter. Are we half an hour over?
We are.
I feel like I'm in between you and lunch. So if we got time for one more question, you'll be the lucky last one, and then you can come speak to me afterwards. Over here, please. Sorry, guys. I can see the guys waiting to serve lunch out there.
Hello, I'm Hans from Chainfix. I just have a quick question. For some technology and business case already exist in other countries, like in Korea, Japan, China, or other, which is more advanced in battery power technology. That can be borrowed here as a new technology, or it is just as a subcontractor? Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand this question. Sorry, my hearing's so bad.
No, what I mean is some of the projects or technology we are aiming to develop here in UK, maybe already exist in other parts of the world, like in the East Asia, or like.
Okay, yeah. So technology that exists elsewhere. Would it be available for funding here? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. It comes down to similar questions that we were talking about novelty earlier, the shore power system, I guess. What we ask about in the application is that you need to prove that what you're doing is innovative and going beyond state of the art a little bit. If there is run-of-the-mill standard technology elsewhere in the world that can be bought off the shelf, it's not necessarily a good value for public money to be funding innovation, re-innovation of that. Probably goes down to the exclusion that we have where we're not funding projects about duplicating existing innovation. In that case, if it exists in the world in its exact form, that would fall under that exclusion, so it wouldn't be fundable. Does that help? Does that make sense? Good, thank you. Right, lunchtime. Thank you very much for bearing with us on a very text-heavy slide set. Come and speak to me afterwards. I'm more than happy to. Peter, did you want to say something quickly about the platform, and then we'll go? Sorry, Peter. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. Not quite lunch, I'm afraid. I was going to give a little bit of time just for any questions to Dept or MCA. They are here all day, so do grab those guys if you need to ask any questions. Very quickly about the online networking system. So we've got Beta Match set up for now. I've been talking about this for about 18 months with various people, and it's just taking so long to pull together, but it is now here. It's essentially speed dating for your business. You can put up your profile, you can say what your skills are, what your needs are, you can set up one-to-one meetings and work through this platform. Again, it's going to be available until September, so that should cover the whole of CMDC7 and ZEVI2. We do have to renew it on a yearly basis, but the idea is to have this running until 2030. So all of those profiles should be saved, and we can use them again in the future for future competitions. I will put that back on again in a minute, don't worry. So just to cover our regional tour as well, we've done quite a few so far. Next week we've got Scotland, which is going to be online. We'll be sending out details for that if anyone's interested. We've got Liverpool next week. Wales, we're looking at probably mid-May. We're still just finalising that with the Welsh Government, and it's likely to be at Swansea University, just for your diaries. And we've got Northern Ireland and Tees coming up as well. Again, all of these slides will be sent out afterwards. And also, Humber Marine and Renewables Offshore Wind Connections is coming up at the end of the month. So do come along with that. We'll have DFT and Innovate UK colleagues there to talk about everything that's going on. Thank you very much. That was a lot of information to go through. It's very important that we get that across though, so thank you for sitting through that. I'll put the Beta Match slides back up. They'll also be circulating down by the registration desk, and that's it. So thank you very much. Please help yourselves to some lunch and network away. So thank you for coming.